Look, I'm wearing something similar. See? You can't see the line.
Christmas Vacation, 1989, looks like cozy holiday chaos on screen. But behind the lights and laughter was a production filled with accidents, meltdowns, rewrites, and bizarre on-set secrets. What happened backstage is stranger than any joke in the movie. Fact 1.
Heartless, fat-ass, bug-eyed, stiff-legged, spotty-lipped.
One of the most iconic moments in the film is Clark Griswold's explosive holiday rant. But the truth is that it wasn't fully written. Chevy Chase improvised huge parts of it. The actor was under immense pressure during filming, and the frustration you see bubbling up on screen was painfully real. Crew members said the tension on set grew each time they attempted the scene. Chase kept pacing, muttering lines and clenching his fists as the cameras rolled. When Ford lights exploded behind him in an earlier take, he nearly walked off set. Director Jeremiah Chachik told him to channel everything into the rant. When the final take began, Chase unleashed a chaotic, breathless tirade that nobody expected. Extras froze, unsure if he was acting or genuinely snapping. Even Beverly D'Angelo looked concerned during the outburst. The studio later trimmed some of the angrier lines for tone, but the emotional core, the exhausted, frantic dad on the edge, was pure Chevy Chase. That authenticity is why the scene remains unforgettable. Fact 2.
Don't hear it anymore.
The scene where a squirrel bursts out of the Christmas tree looks hilarious, but behind the scenes it was a complete disaster. The production originally trained a live squirrel for the sequence, but it died suddenly just before filming. With no time to prepare another animal, the crew improvised using an untrained squirrel that panicked the moment it was released. The creature raced around the set, knocking over props and startling actors. Chase attempted to stay in character, but the fear in his eyes was real. Beverly D'Angelo screamed out of genuine terror, and several extras fled for safety. The squirrel launched itself onto the curtains, causing them to collapse. Crew members tried to catch it, but slipped on loose ornaments. Chechik refused to cut, shouting for cameras to keep rolling. After hours of chaos, the scene was finally assembled from a mix of real freakouts and fast editing. What audiences see as comedic madness was actually near-injury mayhem. The squirrel nearly shut the entire production down and stole the scene anyway. Fact 3. The famous moment when Cousin Eddie's sewage explodes into a fireball was far riskier than the studio wanted to admit. Special effects crews filled the mock sewer with a carefully measured mixture of gases to create a controlled blast. But cold winter air caused the chemicals to behave unpredictably. During a test, the explosion shot higher than expected, scorching tree branches above the set. Chase and Randy Quaid were told to stand much farther back, but Ford insisted the actors needed to be close to the blast for comedic impact. The stunt team reluctantly reset the scene. When the explosion detonated for real, the fireball shot toward the camera at alarming speed. Cameramen shielded their faces as the heat swept across the yard. Chase stumbled backward, barely catching his balance. Chechik called it close enough and refused to redo the shot. The studio later questioned the safety of the stunt, but the footage was too good to cut. What became a hilarious holiday gag was almost a fiery accident. Fact 4. Clark's infamous 25,000 Christmas lights looked magical, but the real production created a nightmare for the electrical department. The team built full working circuits across the entire house, every bulb functioning exactly as it appears on screen. At full power, the lights overloaded sections of the studio's grid. Transformers flickered. Backup generators failed twice. Crew members joked that they could hear the building groaning under the electrical pull. During one test, the lights dimmed so drastically that producers thought they caused an outage in the surrounding neighborhood. Chevy Chase kept tripping over cables, pulling entire sections of lights off the wall. When the house finally lit up perfectly, the cheers were real. The electrical team celebrated like they'd completed a moon landing. Ironically, filmmakers later added extra sparkle in post-production, but the glow you see across the house, warm, bright, and overwhelming, is 100% practical. The Griswolds didn't just light their home, they nearly fried the studio. Fact 5.
House sure does look swell, Clark.
Thanks, Eddie.
Randy Quaid created Cousin Eddie using a strange mix of inspiration, some of it uncomfortably real. Quaid said he borrowed traits from relatives he grew up with, people who meant well but lived in constant chaos. He added bizarre physical mannerisms based on a neighbor who always wore too tight shirts and stood with his hips pushed forward. Ford encouraged him to exaggerate Eddie's clueless confidence. Quaid stayed loose between takes, wandering the set in costume to stay in character. Crew members said he improvised half his lines, including the now iconic "shitter's full." Quaid even asked for real beer cans on set because he wanted Eddie to feel authentic. Beverly D'Angelo called his performance terrifyingly natural. Some cast members couldn't stop laughing during his scenes. Others avoided him because he stayed in character off camera. The mix of inspiration, part real, part chaos, made Eddie one of the most unforgettable characters in holiday movie history. Fact 6. Chevy Chase was known for physical comedy, but Christmas Vacation pushed his body harder than anyone expected. During the attic scene, he slammed his head on the beams so many times that he bruised his forehead. The fall through the ceiling wasn't faked. The collapse panel malfunctioned, dropping him harder than planned. Crew members rushed to check for injuries, but Chase waved them off, insisting the pain made the scene funnier. When he slid down the icy driveway on a metal saucer, the stunt went wildly off track. Chase hit a snowbank so hard he knocked the wind out of himself. In another scene, he cut his hand breaking the decorative reindeer, but stayed in character and kept smashing. Chichik encouraged the unpredictability, believing real pain created better comedy. Chase limped off set several times, joking he'd need a chiropractor for Christmas. Stunt coordinators warned producers he was taking unnecessary risks. But Chase believed Clark Griswold needed to look genuinely battered by holiday chaos. His bruises became invisible co-stars in half the movie. The physical toll still amazes fans today. Fact 7. The infamous moment when Aunt Bethany's cat gets fried under the Christmas tree was originally far more disturbing. Early drafts had the tree bursting into flames with visible cat-shaped smoke. Practical effects teams even built a small animatronic cat for testing. But during rehearsals, the burnt prop version looked shockingly gruesome. Producers worried the scene would traumatize younger viewers. Chevy Chase reportedly burst out laughing during the first test, but admitted it was too much, even for Clark Griswold. The MPAA also raised concerns about animal cruelty implications. The crew reshot the scene with only bright sparks and a puff of smoke, hinting at the cat's fate without showing anything. The cat-shaped scorch mark on the carpet was a last-minute addition to keep the joke visual, but less graphic. Even then, some test audiences gasped. What ended up funny on screen was built from a much darker idea behind the scenes. The toned-down version still remains one of the film's most outrageous holiday shocks. Fact 8.
Bye, honey.
Anniversaries, funerals.
Beverly D'Angelo had a unique method to maintain Ellen Griswold's calm, supportive energy amid the chaos. Before every take, she quietly hummed old Christmas carols to herself. Crew members often passed by her trailer and heard soft versions of Silent Night or O Come All You Faithful. She said the humming grounded her in holiday warmth even when the set descended into madness. During stressful scenes, she squeezed her hands together under the table to keep her body language relaxed. In wide shots, she sometimes mouthed the start of her lines before speaking, almost like rehearsing internally at full speed. When Chevy Chase improvised unexpected jokes, she forced herself to react as if Ellen was genuinely amused, even when D'Angelo wasn't. She also kept small mementos from her own childhood Christmases in her costume pockets. These emotional anchors helped her maintain authenticity. Her calm reactions became the glue holding the movie's comedic insanity together. Without her subtle grounding, the Griswold family might have felt too chaotic to be believable. Fact 9. Todd and Margot, the pretentious neighbors played by Nicholas Guest and Julia Louis-Dreyfus, required some of the most complicated setups in the entire film. Their scenes seemed simple, but they relied heavily on timed stunts, breakaway props, and perfectly synchronized lighting effects. When the Griswold tree smashes through their window, 3 crew teams had to operate the launch mechanism, the breakaway glass, and the spotlight at the exact same moment. Louis-Dreyfus had to brace herself for flying debris during every take. When Clark's lights blind them through their picture window, the lighting department blasted them with custom-built floodlights that were so bright they needed eye protection between takes. Their fall, bump, crash, and stumble choreography was rehearsed like a dance routine. The bruises on Guest's shins were real. He ran into furniture repeatedly trying to hit precise marks. Even their famous snow-covered argument required careful snow machine timing to avoid choking the actors. Their scenes look effortless, but behind the scenes they were some of the most technically demanding segments in the whole movie. Fact 10.
What did I say, nipple?
One of Cousin Eddie's strangest lines, hinting at bizarre family dynamics, nearly didn't make it into the film. Studio executives worried the implication would be too inappropriate for a family holiday movie. Chevy Chase argued the joke fit Eddie's character perfectly. Randy Quaid insisted the line highlighted Eddie's chaotic, off-kilter worldview. Chichik mediated heated debates over whether the humor crossed a line. Several early test audiences burst out laughing, but a few viewers expressed discomfort. The studio demanded the line be softened or replaced. The writers refused, claiming it was one of the few jokes that fully captured Eddie's bizarre charm. In the end, the line stayed with one important change. It had to be delivered quickly and casually, almost as a throwaway. Quaid nailed the delivery on the first try, making it sly rather than explicit. The joke became one of Eddie's most memorable, a weird window into a character who always takes things one step further than anyone expects. Fact 11. The animated opening sequence featuring Santa's chaotic journey wasn't part of the original plan. The studio thought animation would feel childish, but producers argued it would set the perfect comedic tone. The animation team worked under an impossible deadline to deliver the sequence before final editing. They finished the last frames just days before the film locked. Test audiences laughed so hard at Santa's misfortunes that the studio agreed to keep it in the movie. Chevy Chase loved the cartoonish energy and felt it matched Clark Griswold's frantic holiday spirit. Some executives worried the animation would overshadow the live-action tone, but those fears disappeared after early screenings. The animation also hit a small detail. Santa's movements were inspired by Chase's physical comedy style. Animators studied his earlier films frame by frame to capture his chaotic charm. The sequence became an unexpected fan favorite. Many viewers felt it instantly transported them into the film's wild holiday world. It's one of the most recognizable animated intros of the 1980s. Without it, the movie would have started far more quietly and far less memorably. Fact 12. The sap-covered tree scene seems silly, but it caused real discomfort for the actors. Chevy Chase was coated in a sticky mixture of corn syrup and resin that glued his hands to everything he touched. During rehearsals, he accidentally stuck himself to the lamp, the chair, and even his own face. Beverly D'Angelo couldn't stop laughing as Chase tried to pry his fingers apart. The crew struggled to keep the sap looking consistent between takes, constantly reapplying gooey layers that left Chase feeling trapped. At one point, he tried wiping his hands on his pants and instantly glued them to his legs. The sap ruined several costume pieces that had to be replaced. Chichik insisted the stickiness look exaggerated, so Chase leaned into the chaos. improvising clumsy movements that made the scene funnier. His frustration was real. The mixture itched as it dried under the lights. After shooting wrapped each day, makeup artists needed solvents to remove the sap. The discomfort shows subtly in Chase's expressions, adding authenticity to the physical comedy. Fact 13.
Can I show you something?
The flirtatious department store moment between Clark and the saleswoman is one of the film's most iconic scenes, and almost all of it was improvised. The original script only included a few lines. Chase began riffing immediately, adding awkward compliments, exaggerated gestures, and flirtatious stammers. The actress, Nicolette Scorsese, struggled to keep a straight face as Chase delivered increasingly absurd lines. Chichik encouraged the improvisation, telling Chase to act like Clark just forgot Ellen existed for 1 minute. Crew members fought back laughter as Chase dug himself deeper into uncomfortable territory. Beverly D'Angelo watched from offset, smiling as she waited for her dramatic interruption. Her entrance, catching Clark mid-fantasy, was timed perfectly. The censors reviewed the scene, worried it pushed PG-13 boundaries, but the comedic innocence protected it. Fans still quote lines from this sequence today, unaware it was mostly spontaneous. The awkward charm of the moment comes from Chase fully embracing Clark's lovable buffoonery. It remains one of the most memorable improvised scenes in holiday movie history. Fact 14. When Clark falls from the ladder while hanging the Christmas star, the stunt went more wrong than expected. The breakaway section of the gutter snapped earlier than planned, sending Chase tumbling faster and harder. He landed awkwardly on his back, momentarily losing his breath. Crew members rushed to him, worried he had cracked a rib. Chase insisted they keep the cameras rolling because the fall looked too good to waste. Chichik reviewed the footage and agreed the accident added realism. They used the take in the final cut because Chase's pained expression was completely genuine. Makeup artists later covered bruises that formed along his spine. The fall messed up the timing for the light switch gag that followed, requiring several reblock shots. Chase joked that Clark Griswold wouldn't survive Christmas without a few injuries, and apparently neither would he. The stunt team adjusted the equipment afterward to avoid further accidents. But the real fall is what made the moment unforgettable. Raw, painful, and perfectly Griswold. Fact 15. The disastrous Christmas dinner, where the turkey collapses into dust, was supposed to be much more subtle. Early prototypes of the turkey were designed to look dry but still edible. However, the heating lamps used on set dried the prop so aggressively that it began to crack. When the cast cut into it during rehearsal, the skin split open like a deflated balloon. Chechik found the disaster hilarious and asked the props team to exaggerate it further. They created a turkey shell that crumbled instantly, releasing a puff of dry air that shocked the actors. Beverly D'Angelo's coughing was genuine. Dust flew directly into her throat. The cast reacted in real time, choking, patting each other's backs and forcing down imaginary bites. The scene became a perfect symbol of holiday disappointment. The ruined turkey ended up funnier than anything the writers originally planned. Its collapse was chaotic, awkward, and devastating. Exactly what Clark's Christmas had become. Fact 16. The final police raid looks ridiculous, but filming it was pure insanity. Chichik wanted the moment to feel overwhelming, so he ordered the entire stunt team, extras, and cast to burst into the house at the same time. No one knew exactly where the cameras would end up pointing. The actors were told to just react and keep the energy high. Randy Quaid improvised several movements, including ducking too early and forcing stunt officers to dive over him. The SWAT extras crashed through windows and doors with so much force that props shattered unexpectedly. Beverly D'Angelo nearly fell backward when a stunt officer grabbed her shoulder off cue. Chevy Chase tripped over the couch but stayed in character, turning it into a comedic stumble. The chaos became so real that several takes were unusable. Chechik chose the wildest version because the raw confusion looked funniest. The stunt team called it controlled disaster filmmaking. What viewers see as holiday slapstick was actually one of the most chaotic moments ever filmed for a Christmas comedy. Fact 17. The charming Advent calendar transitions are more than just visual decoration. Each calendar window was hand-painted with tiny symbolic details referencing upcoming chaos in the story. Sharp-eyed viewers noticed miniature versions of Clark's house lights hidden in early frames. One door shows a tiny squirrel silhouette before the infamous attack scene. Another features a glowing star hinting at Clark's ladder fall. Some doors contain inside jokes from the crew, including references to abandoned subplots and pranks pulled on set. The editing team used the calendar to pace the film like a countdown toward holiday insanity. Every reveal subtly foreshadows a disaster waiting to happen. The crew spent hours positioning candles and snow effects to make the calendar feel alive. Chevy Chase said he loved the storybook charm of the transitions. Fans eventually realized the sequence was a puzzle of hidden jokes. It's one of the film's most underrated creative touches, a miniature Christmas mystery baked right into the editing. Fact 18. The yuppie neighbor's home, Todd and Margot's modern glass palace, wasn't built for Christmas vacation. It was a recycled set used in multiple other productions on the Warner Brothers backlot. The sleek design originally appeared in a sci-fi pilot, then again in a 1980s music video. The crew repainted the walls, added minimalist furniture, and installed reflective panels to make it feel extra pretentious. Julia Louis-Dreyfus said the house felt too clean, too echoey, too perfect, which actually made her performance sharper. The windows were reinforced with breakaway glass so the Griswold chaos could shatter them repeatedly. The production reused the same wall structure for every destruction gag, resetting it between takes. Even the snow outside the home was recycled from several other winter movies filming that season. The house became the perfect visual contrast to the Griswolds. Sterile, stylish, and hilariously fragile. It shows how movie magic often comes from creative recycling. Fact 19. Chase originally pitched several over-the-top holiday light disasters that never made it to screen. One idea involved Clark accidentally illuminating the entire neighborhood, triggering car alarms and blinding passing planes. Another featured lights sparking into a full electrical fire that would force Clark to jump into the snow to extinguish himself. The studio rejected the concepts for being too expensive and too dangerous. Chase pushed hard, arguing that bigger equals funnier when it comes to Griswold catastrophes. Chichik agreed creatively, but feared the stunts could injure cast or crew. Instead, they compromised with the now iconic house lighting gag, still huge but manageable. Chase kept improvising small light-related jokes on set, including getting tangled in wires and pretending to shock himself. Some of those ad-libs made it into the final cut. Even scaled back, the lights became one of the most memorable parts of the entire movie. Chase later said he still dreamed of filming the larger version someday. Fact 20. The original ending of Christmas Vacation was quieter and more emotional. Clark was supposed to stand alone outside, staring at his destroyed yard while softly singing a Christmas carol. Test audiences hated it. They said it felt depressing after so much fun chaos. Producers panicked and ordered a new ending with bigger laughs. Chechik rewrote the finale overnight, adding the explosive sewer gag and the police raid. The cast rushed back to reshoot the final moments with hardly any rehearsal. Chase reportedly celebrated the change, saying Clark deserved a loud, ridiculous victory. The new ending was messy, chaotic, and completely insane. Exactly what audiences wanted. The rewrite transformed the film from a bittersweet holiday story into a full-blown comedy classic. Without that last-minute change, the movie might not have become the cult favorite it is today. The ending is pure Griswold energy, born from audience feedback and creative chaos.